Hi, here at Infogem, we thought that we'd take a look at some urban legends. So, on this video, you're going to find 5 scary urban legends. Let's move straight in at number 5 with Why Is It Always You? When Lila was 12, her little sister, Kira, died. Kira was only 7 years old and was killed when Lila and her were playing in the front yard. The ball rolled into the road, and well, you know what happens next. Lila felt terrible because Kira had wanted her to go get the ball, but she told Kiera she had to get it. Also, Lila's parents favoured Lila over Kira, so that made Lila really upset. Her parents kept saying things like, "Thank God it wasn't Lila." For example, if Lila had a music concert and the next night Kiera had a dance concert, the parents would go to Lila's concert, and the next night they would say that they were too tired to go to the dance concert. Even if Kiera's concert was first, they would say the same thing and then go to Lila's event. Anyway, 3 months after Kira's funeral, Lila started having nightmares about her sister coming back and trying to harm her. Kira was always saying the same thing, but Lila could never figure out what she was saying. It sounded like Tia Salweo. After a couple of weeks, the nightmares stopped. And one night, she heard a door creaking. She looked up, thinking it was her dog Lola, but she saw nothing. Must be a breeze, thought Lila, as she tried to go back to sleep. Then she heard 4 small footsteps and quiet sobbing. She looked up and saw a small girl with long tangled hair and red-rimmed eyes. She was in a white nightgown and holding a small teddy bear in her hand. "Oh my gosh, Kira, is that you?" said Lila, very surprised. Kira nodded and slowly walked up to Lila and said in a quiet voice, "Tiwa loasayo." "I'm sorry, I don't understand," said Kira, living bad memories again. "Tiwa loasayo," said Kira again. I don't understand you," said Leah, terrified. "It was always you!" Kira shouted. When Lila's mother came out of the room the next morning, she found Lila crying on the floor with her eyes gouged out, cuts all over her body, and her eyes sewn shut. But Lila appeared to be 7 again, and in the bed was Kiara, now 12 years old, crying and looking at her dead sister's body. Our next urban legend is called Something Was Wrong. One morning, John Sullivan found himself walking down a street downtown. He could not explain what he was doing there, or how he got there, or where he had been earlier. He didn't even know what time it was. He saw a woman walking toward him and stopped her. "I'm afraid I forgot my watch," he said, and smiled. "Can you please tell me the time?" When she saw him, she screamed and ran. Then he noticed that other people were afraid of him. When they saw him coming, they flattened themselves against the building or ran across the street to stay out of his way. "There must be something wrong with me," John thought. I better go home. He hailed a taxi, but the driver took one look at him and sped away. "This is crazy," he said to himself. John did not understand what was going on, and it scared him. "Maybe someone at home can come and pick me up," he thought. He found a telephone and called home, expecting his wife to answer. Instead, a strange voice answered. "Is Mrs. Sullivan there?" he asked. "I'm sorry she isn't," the voice said. "Her husband died a few days ago in a horrible car crash. She's at his funeral." Number 3 is grandparents' house. Now, this comes from somebody who lived in Japan, and this is what they said. Quote, "I live near Okinawa, Japan. One morning I woke up and found a letter in my mailbox. This letter was from my grandmother who lived in a town 2 hours from where I live. My grandfather had disappeared 8 months ago during a heavy earthquake which ruined many houses in his neighborhood. So there was a very big grievance over his disappearance. My grandmother asked me to come visit her because she thought she was going crazy. She didn't feel comfortable alone in the house. That same day I went to see her and I walked to her front door and knocked. No one answered. I saw a small little light through the window. As soon as I looked, it went out. I didn't have a key to the house, but when I turned away to leave, a neighbour came to tell me that my grandmother had been taken to the old folks' home in town. She had been found by him when he was going to fix the sink for her. He told me that my grandmother was suffering a lot and that she had lost her voice, which she didn't tell me in the letter. I went to see her, and when I saw her, I was amazed how weird she looked. She had looked and aged 10 years older in such a short period. She turned towards me and handed me a letter and told me to go to her house and look for my grandfather. I didn't know what she meant, and she wrote down, just go and see for yourself and come to tell me when you find something. She handed me the key to the front door. I was surprised she ordered me to let me take a look in the house. I went to the house, and when I walked inside, the light was on again. Something must have been wrong with the electricity. I went to the guest bedroom and put my stuff in the closet. I then went in to eat, and when I returned, it was around 8 p.m, so it was getting dark. When I was in the bathroom, I looked outside the window and saw someone in the garden. Startled, I went outside, but no one was there. So I took a shower, and then again the lights shut off. It freaked me out since I couldn't see a thing. Then I heard a sweet little voice. I didn't know what the voice said, but I didn't get frightened. It gave me a sweet feeling. This was strange, because I would freak out normally when I hear strange things. Then I heard a strange sound in the house, and I searched where the sound came from. I stumbled upon a closet, I opened it and discovered a door. This is where I discovered there was a secret cellar in the house. As I walked into that cellar, I couldn't stand the stench. It was really bad, and when I walked downstairs, I immediately called the police. My grandfather's corpse was lying there, but he was not lying there alone. More than 7 other corpses were in the basement. The police investigated everything, but they couldn't determine what really happened. They said my grandfather had probably taken some people to his basement to shelter them from the earthquake. But this couldn't be true, since the basement was still intact. So how had these people died? I wouldn't be writing this, but my grandmother wrote me a letter since then and told me that she thinks the neighbour I saw that day I arrived had something to do with it all. Perhaps he was the man I saw in the garden. This case is still unsolved, and my grandmother passed away before I knew what really happened. Now their house is known as a ghost house, but I haven't given up on finding what really happened underneath that house. Number 2, we've got milk bottles. She was just another poor, bedraggled woman struggling to feed her family. He saw them all the time, their faces careworn and blank. The depression had created hundreds of them. He was one of the lucky ones who still had his grocery and money coming in to feed his family. She came one day to his shop carrying 2 empty milk bottles and wordlessly placed them on the counter in front of him. He took the empties and replaced them with full bottles, saying, 10 cents, please. She did not reply. She just took the bottles and left the shop. He might have gone after her to demand his money or called the police, but he didn't either. Her need was in her face, and he always felt a little guilty at being one of the lucky ones with money and a job. She was probably one of the migrant workers, he decided. She was back the next day with 2 empty milk bottles again. He replaced them with full bottles and watched as she hurried out the door. She looked so worried that he wondered if she had a job at all. If she came back, he would offer her a part-time position cleaning the store. She came again the next morning and exchanged her empty bottles for full without saying a word. He tried to talk to her to ask if she wanted a job, but she practically ran from the store with the milk. Her urgency worried him. He followed, wondering what he could do to help. To his surprise, she headed away from the migrant camp outside of town. She went instead to the graveyard by the river. As he watched, she hurried up to a stone marker and then disappeared into the ground. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Then he heard the muffled cry of a baby. It was coming from the ground underneath the stone marker where the woman had disappeared. He ran back to the store and phoned the police. Within minutes, the graveyard was swarming with people, and the workers started digging up the grave. When the casket was opened, the store owner saw the woman who had visited his shop lying dead within it. In her arms, she held a small baby and 2 full milk bottles. The baby was still alive. And in at number 1, we've got Tap, Tap, Tap. Now, this story actually happened to my sister's best friend Jessica. I didn't believe it, but my sister's a very honest person, and I know she was telling the truth. The way she described it, well, let's just say Jessica never babysat again. The creepy thing about this story is that it has no ghosts, growls, or anything abnormal. It's real, which makes it more bone-chilling. Jessica was the neighbourhood's most common babysitter. Everyone trusted her, and she was used for jobs often. The Jacksons, who she'd babysat for in the past, were going out on her anniversary. They asked Jessica to babysit until around midnight, and she accepted. Although usually she didn't like the idea of being home alone so late, she knew the Jacksons and she loved the kids. So the parents left and gave her the number to call if there were any problems. First, Jess fed the 2 kids and allowed them to stay up for a little while. At about 9:30, Jessica put the baby in the crib and the 4-year-old in bed. Jessica decided to go watch TV in the living room for a while. Until about 10 p.m., she was peacefully watching the TV and she began to feel a little tired. The Jacksons had told her they didn't mind if she took a nap as long as the kids were already in bed. So she pulled out a blanket and curled up on the couch. 5 minutes passed and she suddenly heard loud footsteps kicking up the gravel on the side of the house. Her heart pounded, for she was an easily scared person. The steps approached the window she was lying directly under. Suddenly, she heard loud banging sounds on the window. Bang, bang, bang! They went on for 10 minutes, causing Jessica to freeze in place. She tried to figure out what the sound was, but she knew there weren't any trees or bushes anywhere near the window to be hitting it. Although the blinds were closed, she didn't want to lean up and look at the window. The banging began to get softer and softer. Tap, 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 then it stopped. Jessica sat completely still frozen from fear. She glanced up at the clock, 10:35. She shivered, wishing the parents would come home. She was dead tired. She was scared to death to fall asleep, but her eyes kept closing. She couldn't help it. At about 1 p.m., she was awoken by Mrs. Jackson. "We're back now," said Mrs. Jackson. "Oh, how was dinner?" Jess asked. "It was wonderful." "Mrs. Jackson," Jess asked, kind of embarrassed to be asking an adult something like this, considering she was 14 years old. "Yes, dear." "Would you and Mr. Jackson mind looking out the window? I heard some creepy noises while you were gone. I just wanted to know if you could check it out for me." "Of course," she answered as Mr. Jackson came in. "Hey, Jess, how was it?" "Oh, the kids are great," Jess replied. "Honey," Mr. Jackson said, "could you pull up the blinds, please?" Mr. Jackson walked over without question and pulled on the string. That was when Mrs. Jackson screamed. The window was covered in blood. It was smeared and looked as if someone was trying to wash the window with it. All three of them looked down, and below the window was a body. Just a simple man in a suit clutching his throat, which was covered in blood. He had a desperate look on his face, and his stomach was filled with stab wounds. As it turned out, the man was robbed and stabbed just down the street, and he ran to the house to get help, but since Jessica was so scared, she didn't move. He couldn't yell because his throat had been cut. So he banged on the first window he found because there was a light on, the light Jessica had left on. In the end, he died from massive blood loss because he was hurt so bad he became weaker, turning his pounding on the window for help into a light tap, tap, tap. So there you have Imogen's 5 urban legends. There's going to be more videos like this coming again very soon. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and let me know in the comment section below your scariest urban legend, or if anything really freaky has happened to you in the past, or maybe one of the scariest things you've actually heard of or experienced. Anyway, thanks for watching, take care, and catch you again soon. Bye!